This new moon occurs on a master number. Stay tuned, you're going to want to hear all about it. Today we're talking about the new moon in Aries at 22 degrees, which is a master number. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the Jupiter-Mars trine, as well as the Venus-Pluto square. Additionally, of course, we will do all of the predictions for each sign, so stay tuned. Hi, I'm Donna, your practical astrologer, here to talk to you today about the new moon in Aries on April 11th, 2021. There's a couple of interesting aspects that are coming up that I want to talk to you guys about, so we'll go through the general stuff and then we'll go sign by sign. There will be timestamps in the description, and YouTube will do its magic to break everything into chapters so you can easily find your sign. Now, before we get started, of course, I do want to say that I have a lot of offerings out there that I hope you will check out. There are links in the description box to video programs I've done on Udemy. You can get a copy of your chart. You can come to me for a reading. So lots of different things for you guys to get more information about your chart and how it affects your life. I've really wanted to put out more videos lately, but I have been really busy because I write columns for horoscope.com, astrology.com. I write a monthly column in Conscious Community magazine. And so again, there are links in the description box. I hope you'll check those out. Okay, let's take a look at the new moon chart. This is the new moon in Aries. It is on April 11th, 2021, and it starts off with the master number of 22. That is, the sun and moon will be at 22 degrees of Aries. Now, the master number of 22, I had always learned was the architect of the future, the person who is designing the future. Now, some of the books that I had on it, you can see my books, talked about being a luminary, about leading the way, about having the power and greatness to achieve something. But it also is related to the number 4, 2 plus 2 equals 4. And so that is that hard work is required to achieve this. So, being that this is Aries, the very first sign, it is kind of telling us that we have to, now that we know what we want to do, or that we see that things are shifting and changing, it's time to focus on getting the work done. In this day and age, it is so easy to be distracted. When I was growing up, we dreamed about having, books or movies or entertainment at our fingertips. And now that I see what life is like when having that, I'm happy that I didn't have that growing up, because it is such a distraction to be able to watch any movie at any time. So I think it is both the blessing and the curse that we live through today. I cannot deny it is a great blessing to have access to so much information. Every time I want to learn to do something, I'm going to click on YouTube and I'm going to find, 1,000 people who have taken their time and energy to make these wonderful videos to explain to me how to do stuff. I love that. But I also recognize that, watching a lot of YouTube means that I don't have time to do other things. And so this master number 22 is about, putting the priority on what it is that you want to do and putting in the work. The negative side of the 22 energy is that you could look for shortcuts or something like that, and that leads to, at best, it leads to bad results. At worst, it can put you in quite a little pickle, because the 4 energy, the 2 plus 2 equals 4, the 4 energy is quite a challenging number. That's a number related to Saturn. In feng shui, it can mean endings or death, or things that get terminated, whether you want them to end or not. So the recognizing that we have now this ability to access this number 22, but there is that warning, don't take a shortcut. Now, you during this month could watch for the 22 to appear in your life to be a reminder that you want to do something about this, that let's say you have a project, it's been on the back burner for probably legitimate reasons. I mean, I certainly have a lot of projects that keep getting bumped in my calendar because other things come up and I give those priority. But let's say, you are just going along and you notice that it's 22 minutes after the hour, or the car ahead of you has 22 in the license plate, or you have to arrive somewhere and they live at number 22. Look for the 22 in your life, and then whatever you were thinking about at the moment, that's what you're supposed to be focusing on. And so the universe is sending you a message. And this will go on for 2 weeks. When we get to the full moon, we'll have some new energy. Now, in this chart also, we have Mars moving to trine Jupiter, and that's a very empowering aspect. It's about making good decisions, about being able to create something of value. Now, the way this is all positioned is that this new moon is going to sextile each of these two planets, basically from the center. So it's going to be at the midpoint of this trine, and which creates the two sextiles. I know that was a lot of strange words there, but it is like if you had somebody at first base and somebody at second base, or third. I can't do a baseball metaphor. Never mind. So let's just say there's a helping hand between these two planets, and that means that this trine has more energy than usual. So everything seems to point to this ability over the next 2 weeks to achieve something bigger than you've done before, something quite great. And this, of course, something may not be completed over those 2 weeks. Yes, there are some people who can write a whole novel in 2 weeks. But, the foundation that you create in this 2-week period could set the tone for the entire project. Now, we also have another aspect that's fairly prominent, and that is that Venus is making a square to Pluto, and that is that you can allow intense emotional experiences to derail you. This is getting obsessed about something, especially about a person, about a love relationship, and you can fall so head over heels that you are a little blinded about the circumstances, that maybe this person isn't ready for a relationship, or maybe they're not available for a relationship, or something like that. But this is also getting obsessed about an object that you want to acquire, or that you get obsessed about a subject, but that subject isn't necessarily leading you to something that's going to help your life path. So you might get obsessed about a news story when it is your own book you want to write, that sort of thing. So I think that the Venus square Pluto is most prominent where you can feel insecure as stuff is changing around you, and so you try to stop the change from happening. And that's where you want to recognize that if you're feeling resistant towards the changes that are happening in your life, stop and say, am I resisting this because I'm feeling insecure, or am I resisting this because it's definitely going the wrong direction? So if you're feeling like your job is changing and you're resisting that, it could mean that you should go look for another job. Or it could mean that you are sensing the company is going in the wrong direction, but you haven't a chance to talk to a supervisor or somebody like that and say, hey, I want to voice my concerns. It still may end up that you need to move on. So now, the Venus square Pluto, if you know astrology, Venus moves very quickly. And so therefore, we only have this for this short amount of time, but it is going to carry with us for these 2 weeks. So over the next 2 weeks, look at where you're feeling insecure, recognize you're going to try and hold on or try to control external things, and then release your grip so that you can do that Mars Jupiter and do creating. By the way, I've never said that, as an astrologer, of course, I would love to be able to sit down with each and every one of you and look at your chart in detail. And I would be able to look at it and give you really specific information. When I'm doing these videos, of course, I am generalizing. And so I'm always talking about, it's for this sun sign or that sun sign. But if you know some astrology, you know that what I'm doing is I'm looking at a 0 Aries chart, and then I'm turning the wheel for each sign, which means that if you know your rising sign, you should listen to that section too. So therefore, if you're Aries but you have Libra rising, listen to Aries and Libra rising, or listen to Libra and combine that information. So because you're going to find that both are quite helpful for you. Okay, Aries natives, of course, this is your new moon, so this is your point for the next 12 months to begin things. So the more things that you can start, or and I mean officially start, and that is to announce to others that you're going to do something, or to make it official by perhaps launching something, launching your website or launching a new product or things like that. Those things started over the next 2 weeks have more of a chance to grow into something real. And so the master number energy is just around you and your confidence. And that means you do have a burst of confidence, but that doesn't mean, of course, that you're going to have it all the time, or significantly, as you are moving into a new direction, you may find your confidence wavering. That's actually just a sign that you're moving in the right direction. It is not a sign that you're going astray. So look at this as saying, all right, now I have the energy and confidence to move forward, but I'm not going to have that consistently. There will be some wavering, and that means that I need to look and say to myself, is this what I had intended? Is this the direction I wanted to go anyway? And as you move forward, you will gain the confidence. When we look at the Mars trine Jupiter for you, the Mars is in your house of communication. So it's really important to communicate what it is that you want, and not just communicating to yourself, but communicating to the universe as well as to other people. Now, that said, you do want to tell people who are generally supportive. If you have found that maybe family members or some friends get nervous about some of the wild and crazy ideas you have, well, then you definitely want to hold back and say, all right, I'm going to communicate this to people that I know are going to be supportive about my ideas. Now, you have an amazing relationship energy this time. You, of course, have the full first house with Chiron, Mercury, Moon, Sun, and Venus. So lots and lots of relationship opportunities, plus Mars is making a sextile to Venus. So that means that you might have to do the initial connection, you might have to do the text, or you might have to go online, but you have a great chance of meeting somebody who could be a very interesting relationship for you. This is also good for business partnerships or friendships. When it comes to your home life, you are pulling energy from that moon, which is in your own sign of Aries. So home life is more about looking at your situation and saying, is this what I want? And if it's not, then to start making some changes in that direction. And so it's possibly that you're considering moving. It is also possible that you're going to ask other people to make changes. Just recognize that with that Venus square Pluto, you might get some pushback on some of the changes. But as you put it out there, there is the opportunity for that little seed to grow, and that they will come around to your way of thinking at some point. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Venus in the first house in your own sign of Aries, which is very much about you are the source of money. And that is that anything that you're putting your name on, you have more of a chance of making money. So even if you work for somebody else, you need to stand up at the meeting and say, this is my idea, or put your name on the report, or put your name on the suggestion. Of course, if you have your own business, this is really good because it's likely you're putting your name on things already. So it is that it's self-directed this time. That is that when you say, I'm going to go do these things, rather than delegating them or giving them to somebody else to do, you're more likely to make money. Now, of course, you have Uranus going through your second house, of which I will continue to say that over and over, year after year, until you are so bored with me saying it. But what it means is you have to change how you deal with money. And so, I've talked about different ways that you can change, but, looking at your attitudes towards money and how you feel, like when you get your paycheck, are you quick to then divide up the money? A little bit's going to go here, some into the savings, some into my projects. Here's the money for rent and all that. Or do you just ignore it? Are you looking to buy something without thinking about how that impacts other categories in your life or your money in general? So over the next 2 weeks, look at changing your attitudes about money. Now, when we look at money derived from investments or money that comes from business or your spouse's money or money that comes from a family business, you're actually doing the strongest aspect of any sign this time. And that means you have more opportunities to make money through investing or through your own business than most everybody else. So you want to absolutely capitalize on it. I should have mentioned the aspect. It's Venus square Pluto. And so that is that you are extremely focused on doing this. I think that you're focused on, let me achieve, the sale, let me go get the promotion and all of that. I think that is very strong this time. Now, as I said before in the opening, don't cut corners. Don't do anything that is considered unethical or breaks the company rules, because that could come back to bite you. But anything within, the parameters of operating honorably, respectably, all of that, you can make quite a bit of money this time. When it comes to money derived from career, it looks pretty standard. You do have Saturn and Jupiter still in that house. The Jupiter is protecting your income, but we don't see you making more money than usual. And that's because Venus is not making an aspect to Uranus, and Venus is not making an aspect to Saturn. So we have no connection there. We don't have that possibility this time. Of course, it's only 2 weeks. And that could mean that this is not a great time to ask for a raise, go for the sale and all of that, or really show off in the meeting. That's wonderful. And then wait the 2 weeks, see what the energy's like at the full moon time to see if it's then time to ask for a raise. Now, when it comes to riskier investments, then these are the things that you might be doing on the side, like building your channel, or perhaps you are doing unconventional investments, like there are so many these days. You are doing the conjunction between Sun and Venus, and so you do have the ability to accumulate money. It is very self-directed because they're both in Aries, and that means that you want to be the lead on this. You can't just hand an investment over to a broker or somebody like that and let them do something that you don't understand or even are agreeing to. So you want to be part of it every step of the way. So, and like I said before, with that Mars trine Jupiter, you want to put in the hard work. That's what leads to success. Okay, Taurus natives, this new moon is in your hidden house, your 12th house. And so it does two things. First of all, the energy is not quite as accessible. You are in the balsamic period of your year, which means that you're kind of like in the dead of winter. You can't go plant new seeds. You can't really go outside. It is the quiet time. This is your planning period. And so that's what the focus should be. It is on planning to do something rather than taking the action on it. Now, that said, having a very strong presence of Aries as a Taurus person means that you have a lot pushing you, kind of like being propelled forward. So you may find that you have more energy, that you even have trouble sleeping. So consider that you have the energy to do the planning. But sitting down and planning sometimes is not as fun, but if you will do it, then you'll have all the steps ready when it's time to take action. So now, additionally, this does mean that the universe could be reaching you more intuitively because your house of intuition is so lit up. So you're more likely to receive the messages, especially the message of 22 that says, oh, here's an opportunity for you to focus your energy and create something wonderful. So when you have an idea and the 22 pops up, that's the universe kind of sanctioning your idea. When we look at that Mars-Jupiter trine, it's in your career and money houses. So a lot of the focus or planning seems to be around how to make more money, how to have a career that you love. And so that double sextile energy is opportunities. Again, I think that currently in the planning stages, that means that the seed hasn't been planted, so it hasn't sprouted yet, so we don't know what's going to come up. But you're more picking out the seeds that you're going to plant. Like, what do I want to do? Fixing up the resume, maybe reaching out and making some contacts, and then getting ready to plant those seeds. And that would be like posting the resume. That's done later. Now you have very strong relationship energy this time with Venus making a square to Pluto, and this does mean that there are opportunities, big opportunities for meeting somebody for a love relationship or some sort of partnership or friendship. Now, that said, of course, it is the Venus square Pluto, and so you do want to be careful that you don't cut corners, that if you have a certain rules or standards that you have, you should not go against those standards. And because if you do, that could lead to something or a connection that is not beneficial to you. So that all said, putting yourself out there now in relationship can work. Now, most of the energy is a little invisible, and that means that it's more likely that you would put yourself out online and you'd start to meet somebody, and then over the 2-week period some connections could happen. It's more difficult for you to go into actual situations like networking meetings or singles meetings or something like that and be seen, because all of your energy is still hidden. When we look at your home life, it's pulling energy from the sun in the 12th house, and that means to add spiritual things to your home life. And that could be doing a regular meditation, hanging up your feng shui cures, or if you have feng shui cures, to take those down, clear them, and then put them back up. Maybe you want to do a candle every day or some prayer every day, but add some spiritual practices into your daily life. And what that does is that brings more energy because it compounds, it builds. This month you have both the North Node and Mars in your second house, so you are quite focused on making money. It is that same Mars that is doing the trine to Jupiter, so I do feel that money is definitely flowing in. It's probably flowing in from different sources, more than one source, because that energy is so, all over the place. So you do have opportunities over this next 2 weeks. Now, your second house is pulling energy, money energy specifically, from that Mercury in the 12th house. So then again, we go back to the spiritual or magical workings. And that could be that maybe the candle that you're lighting every day is a money candle, or perhaps the prayer that you're doing includes a chant for prosperity or something like that. Maybe you're watching prosperity or affirmation videos. Maybe you you are doing feng shui cures to bring prosperity. So doing all of those sort of things, again, it builds with energy, but right now you have more access to doing that, and it's the perfect time to set that sort of habit in motion. And then, you know, in a couple of weeks when the energy shifts, you'll have that already going for you. Now, when it comes to business income and money that comes from investments, you're not showing strong accumulation this time. Mercury is hidden in your 12th house, and it's not making an aspect to Jupiter. And so this is more of a buy and hold situation. It is more where you are working behind the scenes in your business. Maybe you haven't launched the product yet, or perhaps, you know, everything just seems like it's humming along, because the Mars is very active, so you're bringing in money for sure, but the accumulation's not showing, so I figure that the money's just going right out again, and it's probably going out for very good reasons. You know, you can reinvest in the business or reinvest in your investments, so that's perfectly fine. It just shows that if you are thinking about taking a big profit, that's not showing this time, so you want to put that on hold. We have kind of a similar energy when we look at your money derived from career, because Mercury is not making an aspect to Neptune this time. I had to check that. Okay. You know, I give a really strict 7 degrees, and it is within the 7 by 9 minutes. So it's really, really tight. So what happens when you're at that 7 degrees is there's more of a desire to have it happen than it actually manifesting. And the desire can move to the obsessed type of place. And so I don't want you to go through that. And it's a semi-sextile, so it's not that strong to begin with. So we have it, it's really on the wide side, and it's a semi-sextile, so I don't expect a lot of extra money coming from your job right now. I don't see an interruption in that money. Again, you're working a lot behind the scenes, and that's part of the issue is you're not seen by the people who would give you the bonus or the commissions or things like that. Again, this will shift pretty soon. Now, when it comes to risky investments, that would be like buying a franchise or starting something that takes a really long time, like trying to make money by writing books or things like that. It is ruled by that Mercury in the 12th house. So again, all you're doing right now is the planning stage. All you're doing right now is the working behind the scenes, like building the back office and things like that. It's not time to make the big announcement. And if you're trying to sell a business right now, you could have some challenges. Okay, for Gemini natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of friendships, technology, as well as the future. And so when we pull in the future, that's really interesting with this 22, the master number, because as I said at the beginning, which if you didn't watch, go back and watch that beginning part, this is the master architect, the person who designs the future. And that is, you know, like, what are you planning to do next year, in 5 years, in 10 years? What's your life look like when, you know, between the years of being 90 and 100 years old, or between 80 and 90, between 70 and 80, and all of that? Being the master architect means you're giving it the big picture. So this is also one of the spiritual houses where you could receive the 22 message coming from friends, where the friend shows up and it's 922, or they, you know, I don't know, they're wearing a jersey that has the number 22. I don't know whose number that would be, but I'm sure it's somebody. And so look for that number, especially connected with people, and then ask yourself, what were we talking about? What was I thinking about? You know, that's going to give you the message, that the universe is saying, this is a good idea, you need to move forward on it. Now, the Mars is in your own sign, so the Mars trine Jupiter is a very accessible energy for you. So that means that you do have the power to create something this time that is really significant for you. And again, the entire project doesn't need to be created. You could create the first chapter of something or the prototype of something, or you could start the patent application or something that feels small but can grow into something quite successful because you have access to this energy. Now, even though you're doing this great friendship energy, you do not have a good aspect between Mercury and Jupiter, and so therefore relationships are going to kind of stay in the friend zone. So if you are looking for love, really focus yourself on establishing the friendship, finding common ground, keep it very casual. If the other person tries to move it forward, maybe see if you can slow it down a little bit so you can get outside of this energy before you get serious. When it comes to your home life, you are pulling energy from that Mercury in the 11th house. That means you might be having some friends over. Maybe maybe it's warm enough to be in the backyard. Maybe you guys are all planting seeds or flowers together or something like that. But this is also about technology. And so if you're having technology issues, maybe you need to boost your Wi-Fi or you need to get your computer backed up or things like that, this is the time to do it. When we look at your money, you are pulling money from that moon in the 11th house, and this says two things, which is one, most of your money possibly is coming from your job. And so even if you have a side business, you are not pulling money as strongly from that area as you are your regular income. But also it does say that if you do want to do a side business, you are looking to automate it in some way. And that is, even if you see clients, maybe you need an automated scheduling system, maybe you need some sort of automated payment system, or if you are planning to teach, perhaps they need to be videos that people can just download or things like that. So you are looking for how can you streamline operations through technology. When we look at your business income or money from investments, we don't see accumulation this time. So we don't see you making more money than usual because there's no aspect between the moon and Saturn this time, which means that everything is just kind of chugging along. It's not... You're still doing strong energy in a money house, which is the 11th house. It's just, it seems to me that more money is coming in from your job than coming in from your side business, no matter how much time it breaks down. You might be putting, 50 hours a week into your business and 10 hours a week in your job. And right now the job is what's bringing in the steady income. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, this is where the good news is, because not only is the moon doing a lovely sextile to Mars, you have a full 11th house, and that is Chiron, Mercury, Moon, Sun, Venus. All of those planets are lining up to give you possible more commission, a bonus, a raise. So you have so much positive energy around a job. If you're looking for a job, I would expect you to get one. You also could get a signing bonus or at least negotiate for a higher salary. So you have some really good energy in this area. And when it comes to risky endeavors, and this would be unconventional investments or things that take a really long time to get going, like, making money through affiliate marketing or something like that, you are doing the conjunction between Moon and Venus, so you do have the ability to make really good headway in this area. And so that means that it is time to push this forward. Of course, you always want to be cautious. You do have Saturn going through your house of contracts, so read any contract really carefully and also visualize yourself and how you would be doing this business. If this business is, say, selling a product and enlisting other people to join in on selling that product, like a lot of network marketing companies do, then, be aware that if you don't really like to do that type of business, that even if you love the product, this may not be the right thing for you. So be cautious in that way. And that's, again, emphasized by having so many planets in the 11th house is, visualizing your future. And not just visualizing the success, the fancy car and the beach house and all that, but what your life is like on a daily basis in that process of accumulating that money. So you do have this strong ability this time to make great progress on risky investments, but it does say be careful of contracts. So for Cancer natives, you guys are doing this new moon right at the top of your chart, which means you are easily seen. This is great if you want to get a new job, if you want to promote your business. It means that you can be seen by more people than you expect. And so you could reach out to colleagues who have moved on to other jobs to help you find a job. It also does, of course, say that if you do post something, make sure that it's positive because it could go out a lot farther than you expect. Now, when we look at the Jupiter-Saturn, the Jupiter is in your house of resources and connected to that Saturn in your house of spirituality, and that means to open up doors towards resources. Look at doing the things that are spiritual, such as meditation, prayer, lighting candles, doing feng shui, and things like that. So that means, like shake out your welcome mat to bring in new opportunities, or, light a candle every day and do some prayers to bring in the connections that you need, or do a vision board or update the one that you have if yours is getting kind of old. So doing those sort of things activates this energy. When we look at relationships, you don't have an aspect between Moon and Saturn this time, and so the timing's not quite right, which means that even if you meet someone, maybe they're too busy to go out on that first date, or you miss their text, and in worst cases, it could be that you actually show up to the wrong coffee shop or something like that. So it's challenging this time to do relationships. So if you're on an online dating platform, just try to bump things out a couple of weeks, just keep talking online or talk, over the phone rather than meeting that person, and try not to be disappointed if you meet somebody and you're very interested and they say they're too busy to see you, because that's just this disconnected energy. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that sun up in the house of career, so that's fantastic energy. Because it's career in general rather than money coming from a specific source, this could mean your own business as well as your vocation, if you're a doctor or teacher or lawyer or something like that. So it could be either. And so that's where you're pulling money from. Now, that means that if you're also trying to, just sell off stuff in general, or sell a house or a car or something, that's not as strong as the money that is coming in from your career. But as I said, this is a good time to ask for a raise. It's a good time to look for a new job. It's a good time to find something that brings you more money that is related to career. When it comes to money derived from investments and the money that comes in from business or the family business, you're not doing an aspect between Sun and Uranus, and so we don't see additional accumulation, although because Jupiter and Saturn are in that house, you are still making money. Now, it is Saturn first, and then it's Jupiter, and that means the hard work comes first, and that is all the research that you have to do, or the connections you have to make, or just making the product and selling it and all of that. And then the rewards come second. So keep your focus in that area. Saturn is still a slow growth wealth aspect. Jupiter is the one, though, that brings the bigger rewards. So it's kind of climbing the hill at first, and then the downhill part comes. So right now, less accumulation is happening, so that means you're making about the same as usual, but if you work hard, there is some possibilities of some big windfalls going forward. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, you have an excellent aspect with Sun conjunct Venus, and that means there are big opportunities. They're both up in the 10th house, and so you are able to say to the boss, look, I've done this, and I've worked here this long, and I have these expertise and these talents and abilities, and so I should get more money. And even if there was the possibility that they said no, then you could easily go somewhere else and find more money. So over the next 2 weeks, you have a really great opportunity to gain a raise. So it would be worth asking. When it comes to riskier investments, and these would be things that take a lot of money to get started, or they take a lot of effort to get started, or both, you are doing a great aspect, which is Sun square Pluto, and that does mean that you have the ability to accumulate money during this time. And the Pluto being in the 7th house and the Sun so elevated means that how you might accumulate is finding someone to invest in your business. This means it's possible to find somebody like an angel investor, or somebody who will put together your GoFundMe project or something like that, so that you can start to amass the money you need to get started. This additionally could be some sort of mentor or teacher who really takes your business to the next level, and that's what opens up this prosperity window for you. So this is an area where you should pay some attention, because you do have some possibilities. Now, you have Neptune going through your house of contracts, and Neptune can make things fuzzy. So if you are actually signing a contract for any reason, make sure that you have somebody else help you, look it over with you, because Neptune is kind of like me without my glasses. It would mean I'm bumping into walls, and you don't want to bump into a proverbial wall if you're signing a contract. Okay, Leo natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of spirituality, travel, contracts, teaching, writing, publishing. So really lots of good areas, and it's a very harmonious new moon for you. So because it's fire and you're fire, so all things are good there. So now when you are looking for the 22 energy, of course, you are going to find that in connection to spiritual things that you're doing, because this is one of those spiritual houses. So you might be doing affirmations or a meditation, and then you look at the clock and it's 22 minutes after the hour or something like that, and then you know you've received a message. So, but also when you're out and about, because this is a travel house, when you are out and about, you might see the 22 pop up. You know, maybe you're driving and there's that little speedometer thing that pops up, and it says you're going 22 miles an hour for some reason, and then you say, oh, what was I thinking about? Because that there's some sort of information that the universe is saying, yes, this is a good idea. When we look at the Jupiter-Mars trine, it is the Jupiter's in your house of relationships, and Mars is in your house of friendships, as well as money derived from career. And so looking at that trine, there's a big connection to other people. And that is, go find people that you trust, that have been supportive of you in the past, and bounce your ideas off of them. Or even look for collaboration. You know, maybe you can help them with their project, they can help you with your project. And that sort of bringing together could really help this time. When it comes to relationships, there's no aspect between the Sun and Uranus this time, so there's a little bit of timing issues going on. You still, of course, have Saturn and Jupiter going through your house of relationships, which does mean that over the course of that transit, it's likely you will find a connection that could become a very, very great relationship or close friend. But these 2 weeks show that the timing is off, and so you may not be able to connect for a date, or you want to sit down and talk, but they're too busy, or you might even be in different locations. So allow that to just be. In a couple of weeks, the energy could line up, and certainly it will line up during the course of the year. When we look at your money, you are pulling money from that Mercury that is in your 9th house, which is writing, teaching, and publishing. So, of course, it is other things, like if you wanted to be one of those traveling nomads who does all their videos from the road or something like that, this would lend itself to that. You could go do that. But if you are wondering how to get your products seen or how to get your consultations out there, it's all about writing, teaching, and publishing this time. So that is, looking at what you are putting out on social media, looking at, maybe doing like a free product, giving, people something of value so that they will, in exchange, give you their email address. And let me say right here, which I never ever say, you can go to my website, I'll put it down here, and you can get a free illustrated book on feng shui for the master bedroom if you give me your email address. And I don't send emails too often. I send them 2 or 3 times a month, usually to let you know that there are new videos out, new classes that I'm offering, or new books I've written, and things like that. Now, when it comes to money that comes from royalties, affiliate marketing, residuals, and things like that, there is no aspect between the Mercury and Neptune this time. There's no aspect between Mercury and Jupiter. I had to pause there for a second. No, there really is no aspect between Mercury and Jupiter. And so what that means is that everything is pretty much status quo this time. There's not a big accumulation of money. It's interesting because there's more, to me, it feels like a promise of money. So maybe somebody has written the check, but they haven't quite put it in the envelope yet. Or somebody is planning to have a session with you, but they haven't quite done that yet. And so, like they haven't scheduled, or the event hasn't happened yet. So there's a couple of reasons that the money seems to be out there, but you are making the usual amount. When it comes to money derived from career, your money is a little bit stronger this time because it's not only the Mercury, but Mars is still there, and Mars is in the sign of Gemini, which is ruled by that Mercury. So we have really good energy for you for making more money from your career. Now, it's possible that this is coming in because of a side business, that you're doing 2 things, or that perhaps you have more hours. But to me, because the Mercury's in the 9th house, it could be that you are coming up in the pay grade because of some sort of certification that you have done, or that you have finished a course. Maybe now you you're close enough to graduation that they can include the fact that you're about to get your bachelor's or master's or whatever. So, or you finished some certification course otherwise, but there could be something connected to that. But I do see you making and accumulating more money than usual from your career. Now, when it comes to risky investments, you are making about the usual because there's no aspect between Mercury and Jupiter, but there is such a strong house of contracts. What I think is happening is you are getting ready to do the actual contract. So if this is buying a business or selling a business, if you are looking at getting into some more challenging investments, which some brokerages would have you fill out long applications to see if you're qualified to do those riskier investments. I know these days there are some brokerage houses that don't. I don't know that that's a good thing, but you do show that, signing a contract or connecting with somebody who can help you, maybe finding a good patent attorney or something like that. You're showing that energy, even though you don't show the actual finalization of anything over these next 2 weeks. Okay, Virgo natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of resources, so that's pretty fantastic right there. That means there's new energy when it comes to your ability to get credit, to get lower interest rates, to get other people to invest in you. So that's going to be the big focus. When we look at how it's reaching out towards those sextiles to Mars and that trine to Jupiter, what we're seeing is a connection to career and work. And so this could be that you are gaining some funding for your small business, or that you are finding that with your career you're suddenly vested for your stocks, or that they are doing a 401k match and maybe you didn't know and now you can access that, or there are other perks that you're getting. So this is a time over the next 2 weeks to be looking at, where can I gain more by doing just a little bit of investigation about what my company is offering, or maybe, like government-backed loans or angel investors or things like that. Where can I get funding that way? When it comes to relationships, there is no aspect between Mercury and Neptune this time. Actually, I did say it's It is an aspect, but it's 7 degrees. It's off by only 9 minutes, but at 7 degrees, it's really hard to make things happen. Now, if we count that you have 4 planets and Chiron in the house of intimacy, then to me, it feels like you might say to yourself, I feel this is a great relationship, but they just want, sex. And you, or vice versa, they are wanting the long-term relationship and you want it to be a very short physical connection. So I think that that's really what's happening here. And so with that said, because the timing feels a little bit off, unless you are okay with it being either long-term or short-term, you probably should just cool your heels for a couple of weeks. When it comes to your home life, you are pulling energy from that Jupiter in the 6th. And I think we keep talking about this because Jupiter is going to be there for a long, long time. But this time, consider that it's making a trine to that Mars. And so this does say, clean up your home office, make sure that, your space where you work is the most efficient possible. Make sure your Zoom background looks good. Or if you are using the kind of green screen thing that when you turn your head that half your head doesn't disappear or something like that, because you want to make a good impression, especially if you're interviewing. Now, Virgo natives, you are pulling money from that Venus in the 8th house, which is fantastic. You are pulling money from a money house, which means your ability to pull money is quite strong. And so you do want to lean into this and say, all right, not only, how can I make the sale, or how can I get more hours, or how can I, when's the best time to ask for a raise or something like that, but also to say, how can I get better cash flow by, adjusting, credit loads, interest rates, maybe where you do your merchant services, who does your credit card processing, that sort of thing. Of course, when we look at your investment income and business income, well, that's where we see the fireworks, because not only are you doing the aspect between Venus and Mars, the sextile, but there is a full 8th house. And so this is your best time to really focus on making more money through your business and making more money through your investments. So if you have been on the sidelines saying, I want to start this business, or, I should do more products for my business or launch this, it's really time to do it. And the same goes with investments. Of course, I don't want you investing in anything that you don't know about or that is risky, all right? Because we're not talking about your risky investments. We're talking about normal investments. And that would be, investing in things that like a 401k or an index fund, or, things that are very standard. But those are the things that could bring you profits this time. You have good energy when it comes to money derived from career, because the moon is making a conjunction to that Venus. And so there is that opportunity to get more hours, as I said before, to get a raise, or to find a job that pays more. With this chart, you could find a job that gives you so many extra benefits. Maybe they cover your health insurance. Maybe they even pay for a move. So you have some really good energy this time. So if you're looking for a new job, it's time to really push on it. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and this would be things you're not familiar with, or things that take a lot of money or a lot of energy to get going, you are not doing an aspect between Venus and Saturn this time, and so therefore the timing is off. And so again, if you are doing something very conventional, very ordinary, something that if you told your grandfather, he would know what you were talking about, that's what we consider a conventional investment. Unless your grandfather knows what an NFT is, don't be investing in them, because you're not doing the energy this time that says that there's a match. It's a connection. It's a disconnect. That was the word I was looking for. It's a disconnect. Okay, Libra natives, you guys are doing this a new moon in your house of relationships, and so you have a full house over there. That means that over the next 2 weeks, you have the best aspect that you will have for months for having a love relationship come into your life. Now, of course, you may not over the 2 weeks fall head over heels, but you could meet the person who grows into that person for you, that the connection can grow stronger. So I really encourage you this time, if you are interested in finding someone, to get on those online dating sites or to get on social media and tell all your friends that you are open to having them fix you up, because this is really good energy for you. Now, the Mars trine Jupiter, where the sextiles are happening, that is in the area of spirituality and in risk-taking, which is really interesting. So in that area of spirituality, it may be that you need to go to church and see who you meet there. Or perhaps it means that you are doing some spiritual work to connect with the person that you want to meet, where you are opening up your heart chakra and being ready to meet this person. And then that area of risk-taking where you say, okay, I'm going to trust that even though I'm handing my heart here, I know that I'm going to be strong enough if the person says, no, this is not for me, that I can take my heart back and I will be just fine. That's what you are looking for, is to recognize that you are strong enough to withstand the disappointment that possibly could happen so that you could reach out and grab something that is going to be wonderful. So the final aspect final thing that I want to mention about your relationships is there is a sextile between Venus and Mars, and so the timing is right. So again, I guess I can't say this enough. If this is what you were looking for, this is the time to do it. And it's not going to be the last time, but it's a great time. Okay, so grab hold of this opportunity. If you've been waiting to, do your online profile, or you're hesitating going on a blind date, it's time to do it. When it comes to your home life, I see a lot of energy and activity around children this time. So even if you don't have kids, you might be with your siblings' kids, or there may be kids in the neighborhood and you're very aware of the noise they're making. But there's a great deal of focus on kids. And for a lot of you, this means that you are picking colleges for your kids or figuring out their new school situation. And so I see a lot of focus in that area. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Pluto as well as that Mars. Now, Mars is in that 9th house of brilliant ideas, but also writing, teaching, and publishing. So one of the ways that you can pull in money is by advertising your services, by maybe writing some articles or putting together an ebook or something like that. So consider that is something where you're going to use your creative ideas. I mean, don't just farm this part out, but you can sit with a ghostwriter if necessary, but you need to get your ideas on paper so it really does state what it is that you are looking for. And that is, what kind of client would be good for you, or what is it that what are the benefits that you are offering people if they use your services. Now, it's also possible, because the 9th house is the house of photography as well, that you are either taking great pictures of your merchandise or that you are having somebody take professional pictures. And that's something that you would possibly farm out, and that would be okay, as long as you are giving a lot of direction about, the angles or the backdrop or the lighting or the mood or those sort of things. When it comes to money from your business or money from investments, you do show that you're making more money this time because Venus is making a square to Pluto. And this indicates that more money is coming in than usual. And so we also see, because the 7th house is so strong, that money is probably coming because you are talking to more people. This could mean that you are going out and doing some Zoom lectures or things like that for different networking groups, or that you are just doing word of mouth advertising, and that is bringing in more opportunities. It's very clear, though, that it's you directly connecting with others that is bringing in the more money. When it comes to money derived from career, you also show a possible increase, and this is directly related to that sun in the 7th house, which says you do have to go ask the boss. It is sun square Pluto, so it would be necessary for you to say, I want this, have them potentially say no, and then you say why. And that would cause the conversation to go on and basically move towards your favor. So I do see this, there is this beneficial aspect and an ability to accumulate more money through career. Maybe you're getting a new job, but I think this is because you're willing to push a little bit on, I'm overdue for a raise, or, businesses are opening up and I need more hours, or something is happening where you are able to make more money. When it comes to risky investments, and that would be, things that are very exotic investments, or things like buying a whole business or trying to sell a whole business, you are not doing any real aspects this time, and yours is always more complex than most people, because we look at Pluto and Mars, and we look at Saturn and Uranus, and none of them are talking to each other. Well, they're not talking to each other in the right way, let's just say it that way. So that means that there is a disconnect this time, that if you're looking to sell your business, there are probably some delays, probably negotiations, or the timing is off. If you're looking to buy a business, just relax, because you may not have all the materials you need to do the due diligence that you want to do. So, and with exotic investments, this time be very careful about investing any money, because the timing does seem to be off, which means that you could be buying on the high and then it goes down, or if you're shorting something, you're buying on the low and then it's going up. Okay, Scorpio natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of work and routines. And so it's very important that you look at your daily routines and how you are doing the processes of getting stuff done. And that can be everything from, if somebody says, please do this for me, does this go into some sort of schedule of yours, or some Kanban system or something like that, so you remember how to do it? Or do you just keep it in your mind, or you're writing it on a piece of paper, and then when you don't do it, you have to write it on the piece of paper for tomorrow and stuff like that? So looking at the processes that you are doing things with, and the habits that you do, that's the big focus over the next 2 weeks. When we look at the Jupiter trine Mars, now the Mars is in your house of resources, Jupiter is sitting in your house of foundations, and so there are opportunities for you to gain through resources from other people, or resources from your family to help you do this. And so that could be anything from somebody willing to invest in your business, either through the family or through some outside source, or somebody saying, look, this is the system that I use, it works for me, and when you adopt it, it works for you too. Relationships are very strong for you this time, because Venus is making that square to Pluto, and it does say that you have opportunities to meet someone. Now recognize that with the Uranus in the 7th, you could become quite obsessed really quickly. And if you are becoming really like you're consumed by the person, but they don't seem to be returning that sort of energy, it may be a sign from the universe that there's something off. So be aware that there could be this connection that you're trying to make with somebody, and you're going to have to just wait them out. Because the issue is, if you really try to, like if you try to cut corners or something like that, or you become so obsessed with controlling the externals, like you need to call me at this time and you need to show up on time and things like that, this is not a good foundation for this relationship. When it comes to your home life, you are pulling energy from the Saturn and the Uranus. And this time, we haven't talked a lot about what the Uranus is doing this time, but it does say to consider what other people do in their home life. And so that could give you a lot of great ideas. So you might want to go out on YouTube and look at how people clean their houses, and how they feed their kids, and how they meal prep and things like that. And look at their daily life and their processes, and then see if that would be applicable to your home life. When we look at your money, you are pulling money from that Jupiter, which is making that lovely trine to the Mars in your house of resources. And this means that it is a good idea to look at where you can get more credit, where you can get lower interest rates, and how you can expand your business. And so looking at possible collaborations, especially collaborating with somebody who does a related yet very different business than yours, could be very good for you. Kind of a mashup of two different things that don't seem to be related. I'll see if I can try and think of something like perhaps an acupuncturist and a moving company, and how they might be able to help each other. Certainly the acupuncturist could help the movers, but maybe the movers could help the acupuncturist in some way. So that sort of odd collaboration could be really good for you this time. When we look at your investments, you are not doing an aspect between Jupiter and Mercury. However, Mars is in your house of investments and business income, and this does mean I expect that you will make a little bit more money than usual, especially because the connections, if we look at the Mars in that house, the Mars is making the trine to Jupiter, and the Mars is ruled by that Mercury. I know we're getting a little complex, but I think that you will be making a little bit more money than usual, and so rather than your usual amount. Jeez. I can always tell when I'm getting a little tired, so... Now, when it comes to money derived from career, you're making about the same as usual because there's no aspect between Jupiter and Mercury, and this time we don't have the Mars to help us out. So it's likely you're just making the status quo. It's interesting because there's such a strong sixth house, you may be working more than usual, but perhaps not getting paid for that, or perhaps the payment for that is outside this 2-week period. That's kind of likely. And so it does show that this time you're making about the same as usual, but you do seem to be working more hours. Now, when it comes to riskier investments, and we count that as investments that are very unusual or cost a lot of money to get into or take a very long time to get going, you're doing the semi-sextile between Jupiter and Neptune. And that semi-sextile means that there is some energy to get things going. This does mean that I think that there's going to be more of the promise than you've experienced in the last 2 weeks. So I think things are inching closer. I think that you can get some extra profits from this. It's not going to be huge because it's semi-sextile. But when we look at derivative houses, the second house from risky investments is that full house with so much going on. So I do feel like there's a promise of money, and maybe some of that trickles in. The big win, though, is not happening quite yet. Okay, Sagittarius natives, you guys are doing this very harmonious new moon in your house of risk-taking, creativity, fertility, and children. And so there's a big focus on what you create. And so, of course, during this time, your fertility energy is pretty high. And so if you don't want to add to the family, you may want to take some precautions. But it's also a possibility that you are, adopting a puppy or getting a new kitten or something like that. So you're adding to the family that way. This energy, of course, reaches out to that Mars, Jupiter, and so Mars in your house of relationships and Jupiter in your house of communication shows that there is a lot going on when it comes to other people. So again, with around kids, maybe you're helping your kids as they wind up the school year, or maybe they're out looking at colleges and you're helping them with that, or you could be creating something and then showing other people what it is. So all of these things are coming up as being extremely positive for you. Now, when it comes to relationships, there's no aspect between Jupiter and Mercury this time. However, Mars is in that house of relationships. So I do feel that you can make a connection. The timing might be a little off, not hugely off. So it's like, you were supposed to meet at 6 and then you have to meet at 7 or something like that. So I think the date can still happen. It's going to require a little bit of tweaking, that's all. I think that what's more important is because there's no aspect between Jupiter and Mercury, but the Mars is very active, you could be meeting someone where you're not sure that it's a match, and so you are more exploring it and things like that. That's one of the ways that astrology can really help, because you can see a lot about compatibility between two people, about how they communicate and how they get together. So I do readings, so there's some information in the description box if you're ever interested in that. That was my little plug. That always trips me up when I do one of those plugs and then I don't know what to say after, so I don't do that smoothly. So that was my attempt at being casual and doing a plug. When it comes to your home, you're pulling energy from that Jupiter and Neptune, as you will be doing for some time. It's in your house of communication and neighbors, as well as the 4th house. This time, there is a lot of positive energy around neighbors because the Jupiter is making the trine to the Mars. And so I really feel like if there's been some difficulty with a neighbor in the past, you now have the opportunity to clear that up, or to clear up any sort of border dispute or property line confusion or something like that, because the energy is so harmonious. This would be a good time to do it. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Saturn in your house of communications. And Saturn it's not doing a lot of aspects this time. So it feels a little isolated, like you're working away without a lot of people saying, hey, good job, or wow, you're working really hard. And so this is one of those periods of time where you have to keep going, even though you're not getting a lot of encouragement or not seeing perhaps huge results. And so I was listening to, I think it was Seth Godin, who is amazing, so it was probably him, who was talking about that definition of being a professional. And I think he was quoting somebody else whose name I'm not going to remember, but anyway, the idea of being a professional is that you keep working even though you may not be getting money at the moment and you may not be getting accolades at the moment. You're a professional. You just do this. Now, I know it was not Seth Godin, it was Ali, and I'll put a link to him in the description box below, a guy who gives us some amazing productivity videos. He does amazing productivity videos. So anyway, long story short, this is you show that you are working away on money matters, not receiving a lot of external accolades this time, and that would also include not receiving the check at this time, but you have to keep going at it. This is emphasized when we look at your money that comes from family business, your own business, or investments. There's no aspect between Saturn and the moon, and so you're making about the same as usual. Now, the moon is in one of what I call the money houses, but it is more on the gambling side. And so it's possible that you might take a bigger risk in your regular business, and that would be to reach out to somebody who you don't normally collaborate with, or to reach out to do a big sale, and that could mean a win, although mostly this win would be outside of this new moon time. So we might see it manifest over the full moon or maybe the next new moon. When we look at money derived from career, you're not doing an aspect between Saturn and Venus, and so you're making about the same as usual. Also, because the Saturn is in the third house, there is that possibility of miscommunication, so you do have to be a little careful. I wouldn't be sitting down with the boss this time to ask for a raise. You're just going to get a hard no, and so no reason to do that. Just, focus on being professional and doing your job and get through this 2 weeks. The energy will shift. And finally, when we look at risky investments, which would include anything that is very different or things that take an awful lot of money or an awful lot of time to get going, you have a very strong risky investment house, but there is no aspect going on between Saturn and Mars, which means that you have the ability to start this process, but you're not going to see the results for some time. And so you could be working on the contract, which would be indicated by the Saturn and Jupiter in your third house, trine that Mars, the Jupiter trine the Mars, so that going through a contract, negotiating it. Maybe you are preparing your own financials because you are selling your business or something like that. So we have an enormous amount of activity going on, but not an accumulation of money. So if you're making money from one of these sources, you're making about the same as usual, but it's more likely that you are just putting out effort, not really seeing the results this time. Okay, Capricorn natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of home and family, which could mean that you are finishing unpacking from a move or packing to move, or somebody's moving in or somebody's moving out. It could be that you're doing some renovations on the house, that you are buying rental property or getting your real estate license. So there's lots of activity when it comes to home and family. Now, generally, this is the people that you live with, so this could include roommates. It can include close extended family, ones who visit often. It's less so the really far extended family, like the family in the old country or something like that. So, but we have an enormous amount of activity going on at home. When we look at the Mars trine Jupiter, then we are connecting a house of money with a house of work, and so that would say that more you work, the more money you're going to make. It also talks about creating processes at home that really help you become more efficient to get the things done that you really want to get done. So if you come home, or maybe you work at home and you come out of your office and you were thinking all day that you wanted to work on your art or your music or write your novel or something, but as soon as you leave your work environment, you get stuck in front of the TV and you don't budge, and that happens day after day. This is the 2-week period where you want to look at your processes, how you are to move forward. Where are you procrastinating? Where are you finding even those 5 minutes, little periods where you can at least check one thing off of the list that you want to do. When it comes to your relationships, it's really interesting now because, one, you're not doing an aspect between Saturn and Moon, and every single planet, all of them, are below the horizon for you. And that means that you are not seen, that you are working behind the scenes, and you can post your profile and it will get missed. It will not be noticed. This also means that if you are posting social media, if you are putting out different projects and things like that, it's just not going to be seen. And so this is the time to be working on these things, but not actually putting them out into the world, because if you put yourself out into the world or a project out into the world, nobody can find it. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Saturn and the Uranus, and that Uranus is in your house of creativity, and it's in Taurus, which is such an interesting combination because what it says is to transform the idea of monetary compensation. And so this goes beyond the idea of selling your art. This is how are you compensated for what it is that you're doing. So it is about looking at different ways to get compensation. Maybe there's barter for you, or trade. I was going to say barter or trade, like those are two different things. Or maybe it is that the moments of happiness that it gives you are worth the lower money that you're making. It is also maybe to look at accepting other currencies to sell your art. Maybe you need to find a platform that allows you to trade Bitcoin for your art or something like that. So it's I want you to focus on, because these are slow moving planets, I want you to focus on something different each time. And so I think this time, maybe looking at how you can get a different type of compensation for what you're doing. When it comes to your conventional investments or money from your business or your family business or royalties or things like that, you're making about the same as usual because there's no aspect going on between Uranus and the Sun or Saturn and the Sun. And so it's pretty much status quo. Keep working at things, keep plugging along. This energy will shift. When it comes to money derived from career, it's about the same story. In fact, because everything's below the horizon, it's very difficult to find a new job at this point. You might as well cool your heels for a couple of weeks. You can send out resumes, but they're not being seen. So it would be better to spend this 2 weeks crafting a better resume, crafting a good cover letter, and researching the companies where you could find out the name of the person that you are going to be sending to, and then send later. Because right now it's just hard to be seen, and so therefore you're making only about the same money you were making before. You're not accumulating more money. And when it comes to risky investments, it is about the same story. So risky investments would include things that are very exotic, things that if you told your grandpa, he would say, huh? Or investments that take a long time to get going or take a lot of money to get going, like buying a business. You're not doing an aspect between Venus and Uranus or Venus and Saturn. And so therefore there's a disconnect going on. So a lot of what your chart says is, if you're working on something now, keep working at it. If you are preparing for something, do more preparation. But right now, that's the focus. Don't expect the results yet. It's not time to launch. Okay, Aquarius natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of communication, which means that as you communicate with others, you are going to get the positive results. It also says to look at how you communicate with yourself. Are you saying wonderful, supportive things to yourself, or are you berating yourself? Are you just plagued with negative thinking? I mean, if you wouldn't say it to your child or you wouldn't say it to your dog, don't say it to yourself, okay? So be kind to yourself, be supportive of yourself. There's no advocate between you and your brain. So if you're talking bad things and I think it's smack about yourself. I wanted to say smack, but I don't know. All the slang. I could be saying something that was wrong. So, but anyway, don't speak negatively about yourself, because this is particularly difficult right now. And what these aspects say is you might be more aware of this now, possibly because you're doing meditation or doing some sort of biofeedback. All of these things could be really helpful to get you out of this loop. Interesting with that Mars trine Jupiter, of course, Jupiter being in your own sign of Aquarius and Mars in your house of creativity and risk-taking, doing those sextiles to that new moon gives you the opportunity to have instantaneous results from a shift of communication. That means that as you are kind to yourself, as you are supportive of yourself, and as you are, reaching out to others, they see the difference. And so I just want to stop here for a moment and give you a quick example. And one of those is, if you are angry about something, say, I am angry, and that's okay. And so what that says is that you're giving yourself permission to be angry, which sometimes is reasonable. Or if you're sad, you say, I'm sad, and that's okay. And that says, I'm acknowledging that my heart is hurting. I'm acknowledging that I'm sad. And And so it's like another person who would be saying that to you, like, oh, I see you're sad. And how much better it feels when you're acknowledged. So that's one of the things, one of the small things that you can do that could have a huge impact in your life. When it comes to relationships, you are not doing an aspect between Sun and Saturn or Sun and Uranus, and so there is a little bit of a disconnect in the timing. So which kind of leads us back to that idea of being the advocate for yourself, because other people don't seem to be around at this time to help you out. Now, it's interesting because you only have one planet above the horizon, which means that only Pluto is what is seen by other people. Everything else is hidden. Below the horizon means, you know, that's before the sun rises or after the sun sets. It's beneath what we can see. So that Pluto says that people can see the transformation that you're making. They can see your power and they can see your energy, but they can't see all the work you're doing and all of that. So they're just going to say, wow, you seem different. And that's great, you know. But back to relationships, it means that the timing's off. And so you may not be able to get your schedules to connect, or that you meet somebody and they're not quite what you were looking for, or they say you're not quite what they're looking for, etc. So it's, you know, this is not the area to put a lot of time and energy in right now. This is more of an area of, you know, like finish paperwork, finish applications, take tests, study for tests. You know, you can certainly have connections with siblings and neighbors and things like that because it's a full third house. But when it comes to love relationships, you want to probably wait for a couple weeks. When it comes to your home life, you are pulling energy from that Venus, which is with all of those things that I just said, neighbors and siblings and things like that, you know, relatives who are about your age, so that would be cousins as well. So those are the people to be connecting with this time, and they may be connecting with you. You might have more interaction with your siblings than you have had in a while, or distant cousins may reach out and connect with you. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money, of course, from that Neptune and Jupiter. And so the Jupiter this time, look at how you are presenting yourself out in the world. If you're presenting yourself as a person who is confident, that will get much more of a positive response. Now, the secret to being confident is to do something a lot of times. There's no way that a person who has not done something before can feel completely confident. So if you're not feeling confident about something, it's because it's new. But you want to pull in the parts of that thing that you have done before, and therefore you can be confident. So if you're going to go speak in public, you might not be comfortable about that because you don't speak in public very often, but you might be doing a topic that you know well, and so you can be confident about that. There might be people in the audience that you know and you've had conversations with them before, and so you can be confident about that. So you pull in the pieces that you're confident about, and that helps you move forward. When it comes to business income or investment income, or, you know, the family business or things like that, there's no aspect between Neptune and Mercury, and so you're making about the usual money. You're not really accumulating extra money this time. I think that, you know, with such a strong third house, you might be looking at signing a contract or some sort of agreement that's going to help you in the future, but it doesn't help immediately with the finances. So it's about status quo when it comes to your investment and business income. When it comes to your money derived from career, you're doing the semi-sextile between Jupiter and Neptune, and you're going to be doing this on and off all year. There's going to be a period where you're not doing this energy anymore, and that's going to make it harder to ask for a raise or get more hours or get a better job. Right now you are doing that energy, and so for the next 2 weeks you have this opportunity. But there is going to be a period in a month or two, and I didn't map it out yet, but where it's not going to line up. And then I'm going to be telling you that you don't have that connection. So take this opportunity this time, because I don't even know if it's going to be here in 2 weeks. So go ahead and ask for the raise, or start looking for the new job, or ask for more hours if you want that. When it comes to your riskier investments, and these are things that take a lot of time and energy, or a lot of money to get going, you're doing a kind of complex situation, which means that there's not a direct route to making more money, but there's an indirect route. And that is, there's no aspect between Neptune and Mercury. However, Mars in Gemini is in that house, and the Mars is, of course, ruled by that Mercury being in Gemini, and then the Mars is making a trine to Jupiter, which is the co-ruler of your money house. So yeah, that's a long way. We have to touch a lot of bases to make that home run. So therefore, it's not going to be a straight shot. It's not going to be easy, but there is a path to success. And so take it slow. You've got a lot of planets in that house of agreements, so you can make a very good agreement with somebody, perhaps a business partner or perhaps a company. You can negotiate for the terms you want, but just take it slow, step by step, because it's not, A to B. There's some detours that you need to take. Okay, Pisces natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of money. Yay! So there is more opportunities to make money from multiple sources this time over the next 2 weeks than you have had in a long time. Additionally, you could be pulling money from 5 different sources. So that is, start to look at all the different ways you could make money. If you only make money through a job, what is it that you can sell? Is there something you can do for a neighbor that, they'll pay you for? Is there, even counting what you're bartering or trading, those things have financial value. And so even if something is bringing you in pennies, those pennies could turn into dollars with some time. So look at what kind of seeds you can plant that are financial seeds this time. In addition, I don't even want to go past this. I want to talk about this more. In addition, this is your opportunity with all these planets here to shine a big spotlight on your finances, to say, where's the money just dribbling out? Where am I not aware of, subscriptions that you have? I was counting up my subscriptions, and somebody said to me, that she really focused her money on her health, which I thought was a great idea. And then I thought, where do I focus my money? I focus it on things that will bring me more productivity. And so when I counted up all the apps that I use for productivity, I was like, wow, that is a good amount of money. But I also looked at those things and said, I'm using those things on a regular basis. So here's where I would prompt you to say, looking at the apps that you have or the subscriptions that you have, and you say, am I really getting value out of those? Because if you're not, go ahead and cancel those, or at least take it off automatic renewal. So, and additionally, if you would write down all the different ways you could make money, the universe will open up some opportunity for you. So I can't stress this enough. Your aspects this time are extraordinary, but they are not, just so automatic that you could just sit on the sofa and do nothing. This is when you take an action, the universe will reward you. So, and if you are not getting rewarded for the action you're taking, take a different action, because the universe is saying that's not the way to go. Go a different route. So additionally, of course, the 2 sextiles that you're doing, the Mars in your 4th house of home and family, and the Jupiter rising in your chart in that house of spirituality, says do the magical parts of this, hang the feng shui cures, connect spiritually with the universe, do the affirmations, mantras, chanting, light candles and things like that. And then the 4th house side says, tap into that ancestral memory. Did you have, some relative far in the past who made a lot of money, or, really established themselves and, took care of the whole family. Or also talking to current family members and saying, hey, can you give me some advice about making money? Maybe you have a rich uncle who perhaps is not going to give you inheritance, but will give you advice or something like that. Look at the resources you could get from the family. When it comes to your relationships, the energy isn't really lined up this time, and which possibly is good because that gives you more time to focus on money. So it is saying that that the timing's off. So you might meet somebody, but they're very busy, or you're very busy, so you can't get together, or you are noticing that nobody is interesting on your online dating app, and it's just because the timing's not there. This will line up later, but for the next 2 weeks, it's not happening. When it comes to home life, we already talked a little bit about that, connecting with relatives. You're pulling energy from that house of money. So, getting with your family to talk about money openly, to say, if you have debts, to say, this is how much debt I have, or if you're debt free, maybe helping them to become debt free. So looking at how, you can, as a family, come together when it comes to your finances. And when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Mars in the fourth house. And so I don't know how I can say any more. This is an extraordinary time for you. It says a business done at home or anything that is concerning real estate has a big opportunity for you. But because the Mars is in Gemini, you could go off in many different directions. And also because you have so many planets in the second house, you could go in lots of different directions with this. You could be selling stuff out of your home. You could be writing code at home. You could be doing art at home. So many different ways you could go. When we look at business income or money derived from investments or royalties, residuals, and things like that, it is the Venus sextile the Mars. And so you have a wonderful aspect. You are most likely going to be making more money over the next 2 weeks than usual. And as the money comes in, you want to find good homes for each of those dollars so that the money just doesn't get, spent. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, now we don't have an aspect between Mars and Saturn. And so that's where it is more that you are working behind the scenes, but perhaps not gaining all the money that you want. In fact, it does look like this time you are underpaid. And so you're either making the same as usual and you were underpaid before, or you're making less than usual for some reason. So what you want to do, because you have such a good money chart, is either be looking for something else to do or looking for other sources of money to supplement what you do for a living. And when it comes to risky investments, and this would be investments that are quite exotic, unusual, or things that take a lot of time, effort, or money to get started, you're doing the sextile between Moon and Mars. So there is an opportunity to make a connection with someone who is going to help you bring this into fruition. Because the Mars is in the fourth house, perhaps family members are pitching in to help launch your franchise or something like that. It's also a possibility that you're going to meet somebody who, gives you basically the keys to the kingdom, who says, I'm going to let you take over someday if you will get this started. So there's some strong possibilities here. Of course, always be careful when signing agreements. Uranus is going through your third house, which means that you might read a passage and think it means one thing when it actually means another. So get some help if you're actually signing an agreement. But if you're already in the investment, then you have some great possibilities this time. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe and stay tuned because LaRue wants to say hi.